Hi, I'm Mark Goodliff. Welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic. Today we're going to do another fairly basic video looking at the structure of cryptic clues and how to solve them. So I'm going to just start by opening up today's Times Quick Cryptic, and we'll maybe get started with a few answers in that if we can. I haven't looked at this, so I'm solving it fresh with you. You may do better than me, that's fine. Let's have a look. So here we go, Times Quick Cryptic. Now one across, have a look at this clue. 4 letters long. Stupid turning over black wet soil. So one of the ways to get started is to look for standard bits of wordplay. There'll be a definition at one end of the clue, and that could be either stupid or it could be wet soil. It could be something else, but it's likely to be either of those things. So we're looking for a 4-letter word either meaning stupid or meaning wet soil. Now what there is apart from that in the clue is turning over and black. And turning over sounds like an instruction to reverse something. Black is often the letter B in crosswords. There are other things it could be like jet or ebony, but normally it's the letter B. So we could either look to be turning over a word meaning stupid and then adding B for black, or we could be turning over B plus a word meaning wet soil. So that's more likely given where turning over appears in the clue. So we're looking probably then for a 4-letter word meaning stupid that ends in B after a word for wet soil has been turned over. So have a think about that. Do pause the video if you want some more time. But the word for wet soil that we need is mud. And if we turn over B mud, we get dumb. And that means stupid, at least in American. So that's a good start. And let's have a look at one down. Begins with a D, and it's always useful to go to words where you have a letter in the grid, because that helps shape your thoughts slightly about the sort of synonyms or translations of abbreviations you need to find. And here at one down, 8-letter word beginning with D. The clue is unhappy actors covered by feathers. So we're either looking for an 8-letter word meaning unhappy, somehow made up of a word for actors and a word for feathers. Or we might be looking for a word meaning either feathers or covered by feathers, and somehow that would be constructed from a word for unhappy and a word for actors. That's about all the possibilities, and I think by far the most likely is we're looking for an answer that's a synonym of unhappy and is made up of a word for actors somehow covered by a word for feathers. So have a think about that. In this case, the actors refers to what a group of actors is called, and the feathers is a synonym for a certain type of feather. And pause if you want to think about it for a bit longer. In fact, actually, I'll tell you the covered by is, in this case, suggesting that because it's a down clue, the word for actors is underneath or covered by the word for feathers. So we need a word for feathers, then a word for the actors, and it all makes unhappy. So pause if you need to think about it. And the answer is downcast. And you can see how the cast there, or actors, have been covered by the feathers or down, and therefore it's become unhappy, downcast. So let's have a look at 9 across, beginning with the W. I won't go on too long with this, but we'll hope we can get 2 or 3 more. 9 across with the W. 7 letters. Be only partially successful in looking attractive. So the definition could be only partially successful, but it's much more likely to be attractive or looking attractive. And if you can think of synonyms for looking attractive that are 7 letters long beginning with W, you may well be able to come up with one that could once it's been split up, sound like it means be only partially successful. Or you could approach this from the wordplay point of view and think of a phrase that means be only partially successful. And that must mean losing a few, as an extra hint. And the phrase, there is a proverb, of course, win some, lose some. And if you think about the beginning of that, the answer to the clue may become obvious. It's winsome. And that means looking attractive, but if you split it up, winsome can mean to be only partially successful. It's a very neat pun there. And let's have a look at 11 across, beginning with C. 5 letters. Disorder is nothing with Charles around. Now here, almost certainly, given that with Charles around looks like it's doing some sort of wordplay thing, I think we're looking for a 5-letter synonym for disorder, beginning with C. And if you can think of one of those, you're pretty much there already. But to prove that, you might want to think of the letter O representing nothing with something that means Charles around it. Now that could be a famous Charles, although normally it would say Charles perhaps in the clue or something like that. So in fact we're looking for an abbreviation of Charles put around the letter O to mean disorder. Pause if you need to think about it. And the answer is chaos. Chaz is the abbreviation for Charles, and it's been put around O representing nothing, and we get chaos, meaning disorder out of that. And that's how crossword clues work. You're just always trying to find the definition at one end or other, and the rest of the clue will kind of prove the right definition using the wordplay. So we'll have a look at 2 down now. There's not very many possibilities for 5 letters beginning with M, N in the middle, and A at the end. And the clue is, end up suppressing an example of mental illness. And here what the clue has done, I mean, you can probably guess the answer if you can think of words that fit there from the mention of mental illness in the clue. But what the clue has done is it's fairly cleverly used a couple of 2-letter words in the clue to do specific jobs that you could overlook easily if you were just reading through the clue and trying to get a picture of what it meant in the normal way that one does with a sentence. So end up doesn't mean end up, it means an end put upwards, because this is a down clue. So you're reversing a word meaning end, and that word is suppressing not an example of anything, but just an. So we're putting the word an inside a word meaning end written upwards or backwards, and the whole thing is going to give us an example of mental illness. So if you've thought of mania as the answer, you should be able to work out that the other letters apart from an in that are A-I-M if you write them upwards, and aim is an end in the sense of a goal. So that's the answer to the clue, 2 down, mania. And then maybe just to try and complete the northwest corner here, we'll have a look at 8 down, 6 letters, and we've got an O and an S in it. And the clue is, a snooty person picked up one small plant. And that's not going to help in that. Oh yeah, okay, right. That's not simple. It took me a while to work out what that was. So a snooty person is a and then a word for a snooty person. So that's somebody who kind of looks down on other people. And that gets picked up. Again, this is a down clue, so that could mean reversed. And then we need a letter that can represent 1, and the whole thing means a small plant. So if you've managed to think of somebody who looks down on other people, hopefully you've come up with a snob, and then work out what a snob is backwards with something meaning 1 underneath it. And the answer is bonsai. Ooh, mistyped it, but let's just get that right as bonsai. So there you see a snob going upwards and 1. So a snooty person, a snob, has been picked up, and then there's 1, and the whole thing means a small plant. So that gets us started on today's puzzle and today's quick cryptic. These are quite good exercises for this kind of video, especially because and for kind of learning how to solve, because what they've normally done in a quick cryptic is to rule out obscure vocabulary and indeed to rule out really convoluted wordplay, which is rare but is occasional in the main crossword. So these puzzles are a little bit more straightforward to get going on. So I hope you've enjoyed that. It's again a bit of a beginner's guide to how crossword clues work, but I hope it showed that anybody can make some progress into a crossword if they have a think about what the bits of the clue mean. Try not to read the whole clue as a sentence. That doesn't necessarily help. Try and work out which end of the clue is providing the definition, and look at the wordplay to see if you can justify a possible definition that would fit. Do use the letters in the grid. They're very helpful. I strongly recommend that all the time. And enjoy your puzzling. Thanks very much for joining us. Hope to see you again next time.